Hi, I'm Chris from develephant. I wanted to briefly talk about a command line tool called Corona HTML5 Builder that is put together with Node.js that allows you to have a few niceties added to your toolkit when you're working with HTML5 projects, which are new in the Corona dailies. It's in beta right now, but works quite well. So basically how this tool works is it allows you to do some things quicker from the command line as opposed to going through the actual Corona application. It also offers, in my opinion, at this point in time, a better experience for the updating of the browser as you're working on your project. So the first thing you need to know is that you do have to have Node.js installed on your system. If you're unfamiliar with Node.js, it's just a very simple installer, just a basic normal deal that will install the Node.js runtime, which is a JavaScript runtime. It's similar to Lua. Just once you install it, you're kind of done with that. If you want to get deeper into how that works, you're welcome to, but that's the basics. You just need to run that installer. And at that point, you'll open up a terminal program, and then you'll run this command here to install this command line utility called Corona HTML5 that will be available to your terminal throughout your system. So that's the basics of how we do that. Once we have that set up, then you can go ahead and start using it with your Corona HTML5 projects. So the first thing is you'll want to have a project set up. And what I do for my HTML5 projects is I basically have a general project directory, and then I will create my Corona project. So I have a Corona project here in this game folder, and then I also make a HTML5 folder to hold the output for the build of the HTML5 files. So once that's set up, then we can go ahead and just get that open up in the editor. So I'm going to go ahead, I use Visual Code, and if you're lucky enough to have a built-in terminal in your code editor, then it makes life a lot easier. If not, you need to open up a terminal and you can use these commands once you point to your actual Corona project directory. So I have already got Corona HTML5 Builder installed, and I'm opening up my terminal. I'm in my directory here for my Corona project, and I just need to quickly initialize this so that I can use HTML5 Builder. So it's Corona HTML5. This again is on the command line in my terminal, and the first one I need to run is init and --app, and then give it the name of the app. In this case, my app name is game. That's what the directory folder is called. And then a path to the HTML output folder. So I use --HTML, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my path to my game project and then the HTML5 folder. So this is all I need to basically bootstrap this project with Corona HTML5 Builder. So it goes ahead and runs that. The only difference you'll see is this package.lua. And that's all that's added. It doesn't make any other adjustments to your project. So if you decide at any point in time you're not interested in using the tool anymore, you can just get rid of this package.lua and you're basically back to normal. One thing you might want to do is in the build settings, down at the bottom there's a Exclude Files area here, and under the All key you can add in the package.lua, and that way it doesn't get compiled with your project. But that's completely optional, but something that I usually end up doing. This is just a simple Corona project. We just got a display text field here. It says hello, and so we can go ahead and at this point just do our first HTML5 build. So I'm going to go ahead and do Corona HTML5 build, and it will go ahead and send a build request and then put that together for us. So now in our game project folder and our HTML5, we can see now that we have our output for that. One thing to notice is that Corona is not running. This actually sends the command in the background to Corona native. Now if you're on a Macintosh computer, Mac OS, you'll need to do a special configuration. It's not super special, but basically you need to go into your Corona folder and application folder here, and then into the native folder, and you need to run this setup Corona native, which basically just sets up a symlink to the native program. And this is only applicable for Mac OS. You don't need to do this on the Windows version. And once you set this up, it's set up for that version. Now, right now, HTML5 is a moving target, so there's a lot of new dailies. As you download a new daily, you will need to make sure that you rerun this setup Corona native on any new daily that you download. Once that stabilizes, obviously that won't be that big of an issue. So at this point, we can go ahead, and the next thing we can do is start up a browser watch session. So I'm going to do Corona HTML5 watch. And what this is going to do is this uses browser sync to create a browser session. And it's a little bit nicer than the one that's built into Corona. We only have to have one window open, and from here on out, every time we issue a build, it's just going to refresh this window. We don't have to deal with new windows, etc., etc. So to see that in action, I can just change this text field, and then browser sync actually uses up a terminal session, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a new terminal here so that I can run my Corona HTML5 commands. And I'm going to run a build again since I've made a change to my project. And that's going to send that off to the build server, and then once that's all done, it's going to go ahead and it'll automatically refresh my browser, and then you can see the update here on the text. So that makes it pretty simple to just kind of be able to just do your edits, run a build as you would through the normal application. You don't have to worry about new windows or dealing with Windows. It just automatically will update as your project updates, and so that's kind of handy. One of the other options you do have, of course, is the HTML5 does have a debug build. So let's say I wanted to start a debug build instead. I can go ahead and close out this browser sync session. I'll open up a watch and I'll give it a flag of -D, and once I do that, now I'm going to be in debug mode, and I can see all the debug action. So if I go back in here and I have this and I want to add a print something, then now when I rebuild, I'm going to jump back over to my build terminal here, Corona HTML5 build. Now when I rebuild, it's going to go ahead and it'll update this once that's done. And then I can see that output down here below in the console debugger. So that's how you start a debug session. And again, every time you make some changes to your project and you rebuild it, that browser will refresh. And so that makes it kind of handy. The thing, most editors usually will have some way of binding a keyboard shortcut or whatnot. In Visual Code, you can actually create what's called the task build, and to do that I'll just run you may not be using Visual Code, but I'm just going to run through it in case you are. You use Shift Command P to open up your console drop down here, and under tasks there's this configure default build task, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it's going to ask me if I want to create this task.json file, and I do. And from there, they have a couple of default options, but then they have one called Others. So I'm going to click that, and then you'll get this tasks.json file here. So I'm going to go ahead and just call this Corona HTML5 build, and then we just add the command that we want to run when we use the build keystroke, and that's going to be Corona HTML5 build. So once that's set up, then we have that as our build command. This will be our default build command. Now to run the build command in Visual Code, it's Shift Command B for build. On the Windows, it's Shift Alt B, I believe, and it'll say no build task run found configure build task. So we go ahead and click that. We'll see our Corona HTML5 build show up here. We can click that, And then what that does is basically goes ahead and finalizes the default here so that it knows that that's the one that we want to run every time we run the keystroke. So we're done with that. We don't ever have to play with that again. So now we can make some changes to this, and then we can run the build command, which again is Shift Command B on Mac OS and Shift Alt B on Windows, and then it'll go ahead and just run the build for us. We don't have to type that in anymore. And then we'll see that update in the background, and again here's our output here that we added in. So that makes it pretty easy. Once you have that build task set up, it's pretty easy just to make some edits, run Shift Command B or Shift Alt B, and it'll have the browser refresh in the background, and you can just keep working away. So that pretty much covers Corona HTML5 Builder. You can find this on GitHub. I'll post a link below. There's full instructions in here and all the command lines options, and it's pretty easy to install and very easy to use. Thanks for watching.